Ever heard about the European cities giving away free houses to people and wondered if it's true? Well, your answer is yes, and as shocking as it may sound, this is becoming more of a trend in several European cities, to the extent that some cities are now even paying people to live in these houses. To make matters even more interesting, some of the biggest cities in Europe are adopting this policy today, and Italy is one of them. Of course, not many people saw this one coming, especially considering Italy's rich history, status, and overwhelming beauty. So, what might have triggered the adoption of such policy in one of Europe's biggest countries? Well, if you think the Italian government is just being all charitable and generous, then you're just so wrong. Not to worry though, you won't be ignorant for much longer, because this video is about to reveal the whole truth of why Italy is giving away free houses. You definitely want to stick around until the end to find out if these houses are truly worth the bargain. Now, let's start with this very intriguing question. Is Italy really paying people to live in the free houses? While you might still be struggling to take in the fact that Italian cities are giving away houses for free, it would shock you even more to know that some of these cities are actually paying people to live in the free houses, yet people are not jumping over their heads to take these houses. Strange, right? Well, wait till you discover that many of these houses are beautiful, historic buildings located in some of the most picturesque neighborhoods of the cities. For instance, cities like Mantua have announced that they will be paying a stunning $160 monthly to anyone who moves to their already free houses. I bet you never imagined you could make a living from just living. While this trend started in more remote towns, it has quickly spread across some more popular cities where you would not typically expect to have cheap houses. For example, a house in Sicily would have cost nothing less than $120 as recently as 2019, but today they have adopted the €1 scheme, which means they are basically giving houses away for free. Of course, these bargains come with specific conditions that usually require the buyer to spend a particular amount on renovation, but then you will agree that this is barely even a condition, considering that you will be renovating your own house. So, what's the real catch here? Why are people not all over themselves for these lucrative offers? Is it all just a case of the more you see, the less you understand? Well, that takes us to the next discussion: Italy's empty house pandemic. Here's one quick eye-opener for you. If Italy's housing deals and giveaways sound too good to be true, it's because it certainly is. You see, while the headlines make it sound like you are getting an offer of a lifetime, what they won't tell you is that Italy's real estate market is literally in shambles, and a tour around the so-called free towns will reveal the scary tale of Italy's empty house pandemic. The sight of the hundreds of empty houses here is not pretty at all, but that's the state of these towns, and the pandemic is quickly spreading to some well-known cities too. So the real question now is, how did these empty houses come about? Believe it or not, these towns once boasted high populations, and the cities were once bubbling. So where did everybody go? Well, let's say they all left to search for greener pastures. The truth is that while these towns have rich histories that they will always want you to know about, they do not measure up in terms of job opportunities and other means of generating income. This means there's no way of making a living here, and this has prompted massive waves of emigration to other cities or neighboring countries with more opportunities. So what is the state of the Italian economy? The sad truth is that while Italy may look like a paradise and an ideal place to live in from afar, many of the citizens do not share this opinion, and this is as a result of the poor state of the country's economy. You see, what many outsiders do not know is that Italy's economy has been pretty much stagnant since the 1990s. Of course, this is usually a hard truth to take in, especially when you consider that Italy boasts some of the very large companies and brands. Well, for as long as this economic stagnation has lasted, there's been confusion about why and how such a great economy has remained stuck in time. Of course, many people have attempted to get to the root of this problem, but the most reasonable explanation so far is what many have referred to as the Italian disease. Unlike in other countries where businesses reward performance and hard work, Italian businesses prioritize loyalty and connections. So instead of making headway, these businesses often end up rooting corruption because of bad management. Sadly, this string of bad business practices has forced many companies to close down. And as you would expect, the economy has felt the full force of the decline. To make matters worse, most of these businesses still practice the nepotism that has seen them fail to make good progress in the past 3 decades. Add this to the country's unstable government and ridiculous public debt, and you will understand why the economy is lagging behind. As if all these aren't enough to force people out of the country in droves, Italy also ranks as one of the European countries with the highest unemployment rate for almost half a century now. More than 2/3 of Italy's young population has been unable to secure steady employment, and the reasons are not very far-fetched. In fact, even the minority that manages to get jobs in the country tend to find them unsatisfying and mostly feel they are underemployed. No doubt, this lack of opportunities in Italy has also prompted many young Italians to leave the country in search of better lives, and while this didn't seem like much of a problem initially, it has become more alarming as the country now lacks the workforce required to put the economy back on the right track. Italy is running out of young people. As strange and funny as it may sound, it's true. Italy is really running out of young people, and this is down to a few odd factors. Firstly, the high emigration rate in the country has seen the number of young people reduce drastically in recent years. Reports show that over 2 million young people have permanently left the country in the last decade and a half, and more people are still keen on leaving with the slightest opportunity they get. In addition to the emigration problem in Italy, its very low birth rate since the turn of the 21st century has also seen the percentage of young people dwindle further. By the way, the predominance of older people in this country's population means there are lesser people of productive working age here. When you add that to the number of aging adults in need of retirement allowances, well, the result will be another slap to the already weakened economy. Now, how does this relate to the empty houses? First of all, the massive population drop in Italy doesn't do anybody much good, especially not the real estate sector. Perhaps this is the main reason for the tons of empty houses in many Italian towns. Also, the state of the economy here means that people no longer have enough money to even rent houses, talk more of purchasing them. So many young adults who should be living alone and starting their own families tend to continue living with their parents because they can't afford the luxury. But come to think of it, why are these people not taking advantage of the free houses made available in the country? Well, here's the dark truth that they are not telling you. Most of these empty houses and housing schemes are focused in smaller towns where there are no infrastructures and hardly any opportunity for young people to build a future for themselves. So while purchasing a house for $1 may sound like the bargain of a lifetime, choosing to live in these towns typically means giving up on opportunities, all for a house that you may end up not being able to maintain. This means that except for old people who are ready to retire, the so-called enticing offer isn't all that enticing after all. Now, you can see why these towns are being deserted and how all the empty houses came about. However, in a desperate attempt to save these towns from fading off completely, the Italian government is now targeting tourists and trying to market the houses as holiday homes. This means that while the headlines may sound like the Italian government is just being generous with its €1 scheme, what you don't know is that they only want to have one less empty house to worry about. So, would you take this offer if you ever get the chance to visit Italy? Drop a comment now and tell us what you think. Also, check out this next video for another tourist secret that will totally blow your mind.